100.3 down here on the Bay Cutting Crew, and I died in your arms tonight. Well, I'll tell you what, if you have a chat to Madonna Guy, you won't be having to worry about that for a while. Certainly not dying in your arms. Madonna, we just got some very interesting feedback about prostate cancer. And what's the tablet?
Yeah, so people have probably heard of this. It's a herb called saw palmetto. There's probably been 1,000 studies on saw palmetto about prostate cancer. So it basically is something that helps to reduce the inflammation within the prostate. In men over 50 in Australia, 50% of men have an enlarged prostate. So it's something that seems to just happen as guys get older. Maybe it's just, life.
Life, yes.
Yeah.
The ticking time bomb.
And another thing that's really important for prostate health is zinc, because as we get older as well, we lose our testosterone levels. Men's testosterone tends it goes down. So what ends up happening is, the old cranky old man syndrome.
Yeah.
You've probably seen that with some of your friends, buddies, rallies.
Yes, I have.
Yes.
I won't mention people.
So what ends up happening with the hormones, and it doesn't matter whether it's estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, I just call them dodgy hormones, because basically there's good testosterone that's really protective and healthy for us, same with estrogen, and then there are unhealthy versions of the same thing. So basically zinc is one of the things that for men and women is hugely important for preventing all sorts of cancers, because zinc's involved in 250 to 500 different functions in the liver. It helps to detoxify dodgy estrogen and dodgy testosterone. It helps to eliminate it from the body. It helps. So zinc's just crucial.
I'm going to have to get off you down there with So the zinc tablets, you can get those. Are they expensive?
Well, no, not really. The main thing about zinc is getting a good form, because there's lots of forms of zinc, of course. So you want like a zinc dihydrate or a zinc citrate or something that has an easy absorption. So it'll be one of those things, if you are in a health food shop, chat to the local naturopath, get her to point you in the direction of a decent one, because it will be the cost that determines the quality of those. So zinc and saw palmetto, fantastic for...
Got me for those. And the cholesterol check, I've got to have that done too.
Yeah, so with so when we're talking cancer, it's just I had a lady in this week actually, and I've been seeing her on and off for 20 years. She sort of comes in for a general check every year or two. And this time she came in and she said, I've got breast cancer. It's like, oh man. And then when we went through the history, and because she's been into natural therapies for 20 years, I said to her, what do you think it was? Because people have often done a bit of research, and even though medically they say...
Google, yes, everyone reaches for Google these days.
And medically they don't give us a lot of answers. They still say we don't know what causes this, so therefore it doesn't give people anything they can do. Whereas she said, well, I've been on HRT, so she sort of had a look at the stats with that, so that raised her risk. She does night shift at work, so therefore, people who run on night shift, they do tend to have higher risk.
My daughter mentioned that. Now, she's a nurse on shift. And that's well known in the nursing ranks that it affects women more so than men who are nursing or working shifts.
Yeah.
Shift is such a dangerous lifestyle.
It is.
Short term, okay, but to work shifts over 30, 40 years, yes, you're shortening your life.
And I think it's really, once people have done the night shift, money's such a big... attraction, absolutely. Like people go, well, I'll lose X amount of dollars in my pay packet if I go back to day shift. You go, yeah, but, what about your life?
But I'll have extra money.
So part of that is because, we can't replicate what goes on in the human body. So when we are making ourselves stay awake all night long, you've got no choice but to run on cortisol, adrenaline, noradrenaline, those stress hormones when you wake up, because your body just can't get into a decent routine. Yeah, it's a real challenge.
Right from my very first days in radio was shift work, and I think it's taken its toll.
Yeah.
Look at me. Only 38 years of age, I look like I'm 62.
There's also a link, not so much with prostate cancer, I haven't heard of it, but certainly with breast cancer there's a link with thyroid issues. So there's always been a knowing that if we have thyroid issues and our metabolism is sluggish,
there could be a link.
There can be a link. So basically if we've got thyroid issues, as a general rule, we're going to have an iodine deficiency, because you require iodine and tyrosine to make thyroxine, which is one of the major hormones that they test for in blood tests. And the cleverer your doctor, the more thyroid tests you can get done. But very generally, like the PSA, the prostate stimulating engine, there's one called the TSH, and often that's the only one they do. It's the thyroid stimulating hormone. So basically, you want more than that if you suspect thyroid things going on. So, because if your thyroxine is low in your blood test, your TSH, then basically it means you're going to be low in iodine or tyrosine. So just taking the drug doesn't fix the deficiency. So women who have things like lumpy breast cysts, breast tenderness, that sort of thing, as a general rule, they will have iodine deficiency. There's been a link for many, many years. So making sure you have complete thyroid tests, get to a functional medicine doctor who's willing to do some more tests for you, or we can order them through Nutripath. So there are ways of doing it so that you get a lot more information than what the general tests will be. So think thyroid when it comes to breast tissue, not so much with prostate. But they're even doing things now. They're starting to look at women with ovarian cancer. I don't know whether you heard the news on this week. You know how it's like pancreatic cancer. It's really hard to...
Every week in the paper about some medical breakthrough. Every week now. It's fantastic.
It is wonderful. There's some great research going on out there. And with ovarian cancer, they're now starting to get women who have been diagnosed to check for that BRCA1, BRCA2 gene that we mentioned earlier on. So that's the one that Angelina had, and that's why she had the double mastectomy. So now they're wondering whether that gene is then linked to other female cancers, and I sort of wonder whether they're going to start doing that with guys with prostate cancer.
This all started, didn't it, when they eventually, 15 years ago, they mapped the genome of the human body.
Yeah.
And what that has opened up for the medical researchers and delivered to us, the people, for a better lifestyle. Fantastic. Hey, there's an article in the Courier Mail. I'll be very quick because I've got a track coming up. A fella you love, I know you love him, Billy Joel.
Oh, dude.
But antibiotic misuse risk, newborn babies. This is in the Courier. This is all I do when I come in here. I just read the Courier Mail. But newborn babies are among those at greatest risk of dying from bacterial infections resistant to antibiotics. Why? Because we're reaching out too often.
Yeah.
Doctors are prescribing too often antibiotics to beat whatever when they're not really necessary.
And people are asking for antibiotics. People have, once again, it's the call of the almighty dollar. They get sick at work, they have to go to the doctor in order to get their sick certificate so they can take a few days off work. They need to get back to work. So the antibiotic resistance, part of how that ends up happening is that we take antibiotics, and the idea of antibiotics is to kill the bacteria that's causing your symptoms. That's why we take them. But as we've discussed, well, if it's a virus, it does nothing because antibiotics only work on bacteria. Now, the problem is that if the bacteria are mutated or changed, then basically the antibiotic won't do anything. And every time we have a dose of antibiotics, we have the ability to build up antibiotic-resistant bacteria in our gut. So it's like survival of the fittest. You take bacteria, it kills some of the good guys, as we know, so we've got good bacteria and bad bacteria. So it kills some of the good guys, but it also kills a whole bunch of the bad guys, but some of them survive. And the nastiest ones are the ones that thrive and survive in the gut. So then the next time you take antibiotics, you've still got less of the good ones and you've got more of the bad ones.
So when you take an antibiotic, this is putting it in simple terms for someone like me, you take an antibiotic, it leaves a pattern in your system, which the germs, the bacteria, recognise and say, that doesn't worry me, we can get around that.
Yeah, it's really, they're very clever. And bacteria only have a shortened lifespan. There was a doctor in, I think from Murdoch University, and he was saying that basically the whole myth of needing to take an entire thing of antibiotics, say the 2-week course or whatever, he said the antibiotic resistance seems to be building up worse in people who take full courses even once they're better, which was interesting.
And they stress, take the full dosage, even if you start to feel on top of the world halfway through the course of antibiotics. If you feel great, you want to say, well, I don't need to take anything like that, but they say you must take the full course.
There's some amazing research going on out there. There was actually a research in babies. So they looked at 750,000 pregnancies from 1997 to 2009 in Denmark. And then they cross-checked the antibiotic use with the mothers, the pregnant mothers, and they found that the mothers who took antibiotics their babies had a 20% higher risk of being hospitalised for infections throughout their childhood, and that risk stayed high throughout their childhood. So antibiotic use in mothers, and once again, especially pregnant, and the risk is much, much higher in boys. And anything that increases the risk in boys makes me think autism. It might not be connected, but I wonder, since we've got 2 times the amount of autism in boys to girls. Oh, no. Well, do you remember anyone in your class in school?
Yeah, me.
That was ADHD.
Hey, listen, we'll just change the subject a second. Valentine's Day coming up shortly. What's Mr. Guy got planned for you?
Oh, we usually go out to a French restaurant or something like that. We tend to do it in style.
All right, I've got a song coming up just for you and Mr. Guy. Billy Joel, right after this, here at Bay FM.